Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this short webinar about data quality strategies and specifically about eradicating duplicate records. My name is Charlie Gray. I work in sales for Magic Software, and I'm joined this morning by my colleague Joe De Silva. Joe's one of our senior technical architects, and he's going to give us a brief demonstration of Magic Software's solution for identifying and removing duplicates to achieve a high level of data quality. Sorry about the delay in starting, but what we realized was we can see how many people were logging in, and as you probably all found with GoToWebinar, it kind of takes a couple of minutes because it has to install some software on your PC, so we thought we'd give it an extra couple of minutes, so I hope that was worthwhile. I'm going to try to keep the session down to about 30 minutes if we possibly can. It's going to be recorded, by the way, so we will provide you with a link so that you can view it afterwards if you want to, if you missed any of it, or if you want to share it with your colleagues. Also, in the interest of sound quality, we have muted everyone's audio, but we would like to make it interactive. So we very much welcome your questions. So because you're on mute, can I ask you then to type in any questions that you have? You should see a chat box on your screen, and we'll take as many of those questions as we can at the end of the session. And if time is against us, if we don't get to your particular question, then we'll make sure that we answer it afterwards via email, or we'll follow up with a phone call about it specifically. Okay. So by way of an agenda, I'd like us to follow this order here. So first of all, some thoughts on the reasons why minimizing duplicate records is important. And then Magic Software's approach to a complete solution for that. Just in case you've not heard of Magic Software, I'll be happy to tell you a little bit about us, and then I'm going to hand over to Joe to give us a look at how it does what it does, if you like. Now, before that, though, I'd like to start with a quick poll just to get an idea of where most of the people here are on their journey. And yes, I did do air quotes when I said the word journey. So on your screens, you will see a question coming up. I'm going to launch it. Okay, so you should be seeing a question with 4 possible answers, and it's really just to get a feel for how much of a problem you feel that having duplicate records in your database are for your organization. Okay. If you want to just don't need to give it an awful lot of thought, but if there's an immediate idea comes to you, then just click that. I'll give it another maybe a minute or so, just to give people a chance to have a quick think about it, and then go ahead and tell us what you reckon. Is it a huge problem, or is it something we can manage? I would have made it a little bit more clear, but apparently there's a limit to the number of characters we can use in these polls, and so I had to make it as succinct as I could. Okay, I'm going to give it 5 more seconds. Okay, thank you very much for that. Most people saying it's annoying but manageable. A few people saying it's annoying but embarrassing, rather. Okay. So we should be back to seeing my screen. Do let me know if you're not seeing my screen. So why do we need to address duplicates? Thank you very much, by the way, for those answers. I made a conscious decision not to ask for an estimate of the amount of wrong data that you think you have, and that's partly because it's very hard to get it right. As you know, statistics prove that 90% of all statistics are lies, after all. Anyway, sorry. But for what it's worth, most of the estimates that we see about duplicate or wrong records suggests that somewhere between 15 and 35% of database records are wrong in a significant way. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it matters, really, to address the problem of duplicate records. Google tells us that the amount of data being generated is growing enormously, which is where that, sorry, it's a statistic, but it's saying that 90% of the data that's been generated in the world has been generated in the past 2 years. I'm not sure how believable that is, but I think we can all recognize that an awful lot more data is being generated, and with the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything becoming more and more of a reality, we can see how that can be happening. And the fact that you're attending this session means that you've probably each got a story about some problem that this has caused. And essentially, it boils down to a couple of things, but it's extra cost, whether that's to store it, to back up, etc., etc. It's poor customer service. I'm sure we've all had multiple copies of the same piece of junk mail at some point. And maybe more importantly, though, it paints an unreal or an unrealistic picture of the facts. That companies treat things as facts, and they make decisions based on what they think are facts, and that information is provided by the data, which is often wrong. And if that data is wrong, then the consequences of those decisions obviously can be catastrophic for companies. I put that little quote at the bottom. I can't actually remember where I found it or who I should attribute it to, but it tickled my warped sense of humour, so I wanted to share it with you. Have a look at that and see if it makes you grin the way it did me. So, identifying duplicate records then. There's a couple of things about it that are specifically important, and so there's parsing and restructuring the data. So, for example, someone with a surname of Mr. Smith, so we can identify and relocate the data into its correct fields and split unstructured names into their component parts like this. There's a way to do phonetic matching where, for example, a name that sounds like another name if you say it out loud, so sure, shaw, etc., etc. And then there's matching of elements where, for example, somebody's got a title like doctor or sir or lord or whatever, but here we've got like a doctor, Kiran Patel, and then you've got Kiran Patel, it might be MD or DCH or his name the other way around, Patel Kiran. And then we've got the shortening of names. So on various databases, I'm down as Charles Gray or Charlie Gray or C. Gray. For example, you've got Bill, William, Elizabeth, Betty, Liz, etc., etc. Then there's a couple of other things about them. So initial matching is one of the ones. So you've got inconsistencies there between names that arise from initials and acronyms. So the Department of Work and Pensions, also often referred to as DWP. The taxman is often referred to as HMRC. And then you've got Tony, which begins with a T, but his full name is Anthony, and therefore it will be Mr. A. Layton, and we could spell his surname wrong as well. And then you've got like business words like the names of companies. So we talk about legal in general, but most of us either talk about L&G or about legal in general, not the Legal in General Assurance Society. Bijouterie and jewellery, autos and motors, well, that's probably more relevant in the US and possibly in Europe, but it could happen here also. And we've got actually some people from the US and from Europe with us this morning, so welcome to you guys too. And then we've got a need for fuzzy matching, so where people have just spelled things wrong or typed them wrong. So you've got Wilson, which could be letters transposed or letters missing, etc., etc. So ways to identify those. And then the last one in this one would be sort of matching data, which is maybe in different languages. So, for example, my colleague from Germany, Franzi, is on the line this morning, and in Germany they would have Strasse, we would have street. So the ability to identify that they actually mean the same thing, and you've got different. We spell Brussels differently to the way people in Brussels spell Brussels. So being able to identify that is also important. So in terms of strategies to remove duplicates, there's two main ways, and one is to do like a one-time or a one-time regular de-duplication of large data sets and large databases, and do that as a batch. So you might have a process that runs occasionally on demand, and it would match duplicate records and it would act accordingly, and you would have perhaps a scoring mechanism. So high percentage matches, so ones that were very obviously databases, might be merged and deleted excuse me, automatically. Ones that are of a lower percentage can be manually examined by a human being to determine are they really duplicates, in which case there's obviously some manual intervention excuse me, that's needed there. That requires a system that's going to run through the records obviously at very high speed, and to be able to deal with large amounts of data. So you couldn't have a process that's running overnight and still executing the following morning. when people are ready to actually start their day's work. So it's important to make sure that that can handle those things and cope with them properly. And the second approach, and this is real-time matching, which is really what we're here to talk about today. We think it's a lot more interesting, a lot more effective, because it allows streaming of data. So an automatic action is taken when a duplicate record enters the system. Now, sounds difficult to implement, but let me tell you how we do it. Okay. Our data quality solution, Magic XPI, is the kind of basis of it. It's a component of that integration platform called Magic XPI. And Magic XPI itself is a business process orchestration platform, which includes connectors to pretty much any application, really. Major applications, so if you think about ERP systems, it would be SAP, JD Edwards, Microsoft Dynamics. And then you've got CRM systems like Sugar, Salesforce, and again, Microsoft Dynamics. And those are all supplied as certified connectors. For other systems, then obviously we've got adapters that we can use to create a connection so that you can orchestrate the data processes and the business processes really as necessary, and that could include legacy systems as long as there's an API there. And what it aims to do then is to remove complexity. If you think about, for example, in terms of process orchestration, it has a workflow-based interface, a very visual kind of drag and drop thing. So we look at a high-level automation of processes so that we can see in real time what the flow is of business processes and activities and how those are affected by events that happen. If you think about a customer service rep, then he's entering data into his application that might be a CRM system. As they would enter the name, then an automated check would run to check for duplicate records. Now, if a definite match is found, then the record is automatically merged with the data that's being entered at the time. If the match is of a lower score again, then that customer service rep would be presented with a message that says, you know, John Doe of company XY exists, do you want to merge the record? And then they would make a decision based on the information in front of them, really. Okay. So in terms of the data quality component, what Magic XPI is, I'm just going to go through these very, very quickly because we're not so much here to talk about Magic XPI as about data quality and data duplication, de-duplication rather. But the Magic data quality component, it's based on, again, the scoring mechanism. So the higher the score, then the closer the match, and therefore the more likely the records are to be matched and to be merged. And the lower the score, then the less likely the records are matches for each other. In terms of how useful or how valuable this is, for example here, the scores that are received by each potential match would dictate really what you would do with that match. So the objective is that you would set a threshold that you feel confident about so that you can automate the upper and the lower ends of that process. So either linking the records confidently and automatically, or linking or merging them, or rejecting them with confidence that they're definitely not duplicates. And really ultimately, the goal is to minimize that kind of grey area that requires some kind of review or some kind of manual intervention. And the major difference, as we'll see when we move over to Joe's demo, but the major difference with Magic's magic matching process will become critical when you simply can't match based on, for example, an address. Okay. I'm going to just whiz through these in the interest of time as much as anything else. I just want to say a little bit about the data quality component. It's like everything else in Magic XPI, it's all drag, drop and configure. There's no coding involved in it. Therefore it makes it a very fully automated process, and that's going to cater for merging and or deleting records without the need for any intervention. So it's still very much within your control, so you configure the correct matching criteria that you're confident in and the correct scoring criteria. Very, very fast. It uses an in-memory, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but an in-memory data grid. So in-memory processing much faster than disk-based processing, and that in turn allows for very fast matching and deduplication as well. It does scale very efficiently. It can handle very large volumes of data across a single application or indeed across multiple applications. So that would then allow for deduplication of large databases, large data sets, which is ideal for either occasional batch runs or for regular scheduled deduplication or cleaning, if you like, of the database. Excuse me. The batch processing side would maximize the number of matches that you can automate as well. And real-time matching, the good thing about that is that prevents the spread of duplicates into other parts of your system overall if you've already got an integrated system where data is being passed to other applications, basically. From the business point of view, I think the benefits are, and this particularly applies to those of you who use a CRM system like Sugar, for example. It's a single customer view, so that sales, marketing, customer service, even shipping possibly, they were able to identify who the best customers are, who their biggest customers, the ones with most potential are, and therefore cross-selling or upselling opportunities. But also the superior performance of it gives you a real-time matching, and so you're not relying on doing nightly updates to get that single customer view. Connectivity allowing more companies to benefit quickly across different data sources, of course. And the intelligent matching maximizes the proportion that can safely be automated. So again, it helps you to minimize the amount of manual effort that needs to be involved in identifying and removing duplicates as well. And the integration itself is very, very fast. Magic XPI, as I say, it runs on an in-memory data grid, and so it's very, very rapid, and it has all kinds of the scalability that you would hope for if there were times when you were doing a huge data set, and it also has all of the kind of recovery and resilience that would be important in making sure that any process like deduplication wasn't going to impact on the normal business flow. So you can integrate it quickly with any data source, regardless if their systems, indeed, it's important to say, regardless of whether they're on-premise or cloud-based, and so that new realms of possibilities begin to open up. So maybe accurate data warehouse content, meaningful analytics if you're using like a business intelligence tool like ClickView or Tableau, etc., then you can be very, very confident of the data that's in there as well. I'm going to pass over to Joe, but before I do, can I ask you another question? I'm going to put this on your screen now, and it's just to get a feel for how useful you think it would be to be able to if you like, rid yourself of the problem of duplicates. So hopefully you're seeing that on your screen now, and it's basically, again, it's just it's not so much growing importance, but would it be, is it not a big deal, therefore not that useful, or would it be very useful, etc., etc. So if I give that a minute or two, most of you have voted. This is fabulous technology. Joe, in a minute I'm going to pass control over to you so that you can share your screen. Joe, as I said, is one of our senior technical architects, and he's been working with this stuff actually for a couple of our customers. I should say it's a fairly new addition to the Magic software offering. Great, thank you very much for that. Everybody's voted, much appreciated. Okay, now I'm going to change presenter to Joe De Silva. Joe, if you're...
Thank you, Charlie. Hopefully you all can hear me.
Yeah, I think we had a car going past you.
Okay, yeah. Looks like I have a good microphone on there. Okay, let me just show you what am I going to show you. Just to exemplify the case here, what you should be able to identify is 3 steps on the process. I'll try to keep to the 3-step approach. The first thing you would consider in this situation is what is the input, which systems are involved or should be involved, which data sources, where is the data that you want this process to be watching and then reacting, either doing something about the duplicates or alerting the person that's using a specific application that a duplicate record might exist based on that scoring system. And this is completely flexible, so you can pick and choose, point to any of those data sources or applications. I have a few examples here. And some of these applications might already have various mechanisms, either to merge duplicates, like is the case of Salesforce, or to avoid the duplication in a certain level, let's say address, like is the case for SAP, etc. So the process can be tailored to all those situations, and the way to tailor it, I'm going to show you a few examples here, but is completely flexible. The second part of the process is to is the middle part, is the connector, is a component that is applying the logic that you define, is applying the criteria, is applying the scoring mechanism that you created, that you set, and doing or trying to locate and find any possible duplicates. The last part is to act on the results. So what happens if the component says, oh, this looks like a duplicate, I'm pretty certain. In some cases, I'm not too certain. What should be done then? You can again go back and define for the whole, as part of the process, what type of actions do you want. And here's a few examples. You could alert the user through a report or through a web mobile on their mobile device, or integrate to a SharePoint page, for example, or web page. But you can also automate the cleanup, particularly for those cases where the scoring is quite high. So these are the scenarios, and I'm just trying to highlight the flexibility on the setting the score, setting the input, setting the actions to clean that up. I'm going to show you an example of what is happening, and in this case I'm going to show you is an automated cleanup. So let me just open here the system, if I can have my screen showing. I'm going to switch machines here. So what you're looking at is a Salesforce, which is you can replace in your case for any CRM that you might have in-house. And I'm going to show you as an example, let's say this company, KMG, that in this case is showing a few duplicates. You can see that, yeah? So these are different records in Salesforce on my CRM, and I can trigger a process that automatically clean that up based on a specific score that I'm going to detail in a second. So this is the process that will run behind the scenes. So this is the technical part. You won't see that. What you will see is this. You are using your CRM. There are some duplicates. There is a criteria that says duplicates with the scoring up to a certain number. I want them to be automatically cleaned up. So as long as this process is set up and running, you will only see the results based on when you go back to your CRM. You should be able now to see what happened because this process executed. And you can see that the process now is, this machine is 10 o'clock. So this should be a process that just executed now. And if I go back to my CRM and look for KMG, I only see one now because all the other duplicates were merged, which is a mechanism that Salesforce CRM allows me to do. So this was defined here, and by watching a specific process, doing a merge, which calls back Salesforce and tells it to deal with that duplicate in the sense of merging. So this is one case, one scenario, one example that is happening behind the scenes. So going back to this drawing here is the scenario that's watching Salesforce, doing the criteria, and then going back and automatically cleaning that up. But you could also have a report that could display to you, particularly for a low score, saying, well, these are low scores, they could be duplicates. Do you want to set up a specific action? So you could select, ignore these or merge these ones, use this one as the master record, and so on, and then click and apply, and then it will execute something else automatically. So this will be a combination between the automated process but intervention. And these are all based on the scoring system, which is this configuration preferences that you can do, and you can set up what fields you want to consider, and a dial or scoring points for each case when the algorithm is definitely sure, for example, the address is exactly the same, or it's more or less the same. And this is based on the items that Charlie pointed out that went walk you through, all those phonetics, spellings, etc. These are the criteria that are used to be definite or possibly, or the information is missing. So that's the summary. You get the data from anywhere, the connector executes according to the rules. You can go back and change the criteria because, as Charlie mentioned as well, you would have probably a large number of duplicates in the beginning, the first time you run this, but on a day-to-day, you might lower the scores because you have now only the new data that's coming through. And you also define all the actions, and as a result, you can have reports, integration to other systems or applications, or automated cleanup as well. So that's my part, very quick, just to show you a few examples. And if you have any questions, as Charlie said, please type them in the question box. And back to you, Charlie.
Thanks, Joe. I've got a couple of questions in so far. Please, everybody else, by all means, put your questions in. The first one related to everything we've seen so far has been in English. Is the data quality component capable of handling other languages and possibly other character sets?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We have examples of customers that were the critical point for them. It was to do this matching and finding duplicates in a worldwide scenario where their customers coming from the APAC area or the US and other countries, and these were on the demo they wanted to test was exactly that type of data to make sure that all those characters, etc., were considered or disregarded, if you like, but the duplicates were found in any way. Yeah, that's true. That's the case.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then I've got another one here. Excuse me. This is from someone who, obviously someone who's using Sugar CRM. Sugar already has a robust de-duplication mechanism, but it lacks the intelligence provided by the Magic solution in finding duplicates. Is it possible that the two could be combined, i.e., could Magic stop short of performing data actions and hand off the final merging to Sugar?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I was trying to convey with the example of Salesforce versus SAP, because when you take the actions, these actions are just a workflow in Magic XPI, so you have full flexibility. You decide if and what should be done. So yes, the typical scenario is combined with the specific system, or you want to eliminate the duplicate, what the system already have and hook on that and complement whatever is missing there.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Thomas. I hope that answered your question. Is this being used already by other customers? This is probably because I mentioned it's a fairly recent addition. We've got some customers in the UK, I believe. Is that correct, Joe? Not allowed to name them. Manufacturer of...
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, that's quite...
Manufacturer of performance cars, is as much as I can tell you. That's all the questions I have. That's almost exactly a half hour we've been on. So I don't usually get it that close to being accurate. Thank you very much for the questions, everybody, and thank you very. I know time is precious, so I thank you for taking some time out of your day and joining us. I hope it's been useful. If you do have any other questions, then by all means, I'll get in touch with everybody, or one of us will get in touch with everybody, and just make sure you got what you wanted out of this session. But I'd like to thank you again for your time and wish you all a lovely weekend, and if you're in the UK, a lovely holiday weekend as well. And also thanks to Franzi, because it's a holiday today in Germany, but she came into the office anyway to help us out with this. So thank you, Franzi. Thanks, everybody. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.